Hey there, I think we're live here on Facebook. We're trying our new camera out today, so you may have just picked this up. Anyway, I'm James Curry. I'm with the Communications Department here at MCHD, and just want to also remind you that this Friday, October the 12th, Family Health will be at Walmart and Sims with their mobile medical unit, and they're going to be doing free clinical breast exams for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is what we're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
So Virginia Inge is here with
Good
me.
morning.
And we are talking about the negative impact of video games in teens. I know teens, something that's very close to you, that's kind of your specialty. So I brought a video game controller.
I did not notice that. I honestly didn't.
Did you even know what this was?
Yes.
Okay, so this is an old school Nintendo controller, and we're just gonna role play for a second. I'm gonna be a teen here, and I could care less what you're telling me, Mom. I'm busy playing. So, how do you approach me, first of all?
Wow, you're really doing a wild card, James. Sorry. Okay.
I have to save the princess.
What's your name?
Mario.
Mario.
Yeah. I'm playing Mario Kart. Anyway, I'll put
I
that
was gonna
away.
roll with it, but
No, but anyway, so I'm sure that's a common situation in a lot of houses. You know, here's a kid on a video device, and here's a parent trying to reach them. So, you know, how do you do it? Just like we did with like a kind of a humorous approach.
so what I'm hearing you say is that this is a parent that already has a hunch that the excessive video gaming is not good for their teen. And so in coming from that response, I would definitely first turn the game off. Don't try to have a meaningful conversation while they're playing. So set yourself up for success in getting the game to be terminated.
Turn it off in the middle of the game? Is that what you said?
You know, yeah. They're
Oh.
under your roof. If you have something important to talk to them about, or if you want a little bit more of a peaceful situation, you could say, look, you got 15 more minutes, and then we're having a family meeting. We're having a discussion. And then from there, to really share your concern with their video gaming, and even maybe share with them what you observe about their personality after their video gaming for hours on end. And talk to them and say, look, there, first of all, is a lot of research that backs up that especially violent video gaming contributes to, you know, basically difficulty with interpersonal relationships. So it's harder for them to communicate face to face with people. And also it affects, you know, some of their mood regulation. So you can share with them a tad bit of that. They might have comebacks. Just be prepared. But then explain that you're really wanting them to have a balanced life, and that you're not going to ban video gaming and do your best for the demise of video gaming, although I have had that thought before.
Well,
but you're going to reason with them, and you're going to say,
yeah.
look, we need to create some more balance because you're essentially becoming an adult, and we need to set some boundaries. And I'm going to help you do that because you are still a teenager.
I'm tuning you out, Mom. I'm going back to Donkey Kong. Now, I
don't know. How does that sound?
That sounds great. I mean, I think you hit right on it when you were talking about setting limits.
Limits.
Yeah.
Limits.
Time limit, family limit. I mean, right, it's your house, your rules, right? You
Yeah,
set the
and
rules.
what can you put in the place of the video gaming? Instead, we're going to do game night. Or instead, I'm going to take you out and, you know, go to a movie together. So you substitute the time for meaningful activities together. Help them develop social skills. That's really important in life in developing emotional intelligence. So if that's all they're doing, they are missing out on key developmental milestones that they've got to achieve during adolescence.
It is a yeah. We're trying to see if we're live here also on Facebook, and also at the same time watching this hurricane that we're praying for our friends there in Florida also as well. So we hope that everything's going just fine there. I really okay. So I guess we are still live.
Oh, okay,
We're on a
great.
It's live. It's a little bit delay. It's okay. Now, last week when we talked about this topic, we had some questions that came into us, through private messages and stuff. And one of the questions was, how can the negative impact of excessive internet use be intensified for those within the adolescent stage?
Yeah,
Can you explain the answer to that?
I can. I have mentioned this in another video, but adolescence really does not complete until 25, they've realized, with regard to the brain developing from the back to the front and the frontal lobe being the last to develop. So with that said, the adolescent's brain is more vulnerable. And so in that degree, everything where they spend their time, what they do, their behaviors has a greater impact on their brain than, say, someone 27 and above. The same goes with marijuana. The younger you start smoking, say a 13-year-old would have much more damaging effects than if they started even at 18 or later on, because the brain is still developing, it's more vulnerable, and things like that. So that's, if your teen is continuing to do constant social media and excessive internet use, it's really not a good thing. So that you need to help them develop some boundaries with it.
I want to go back to something you just said when you started talking about marijuana and other drugs.
Right, that could be another discussion as well.
And those are addictions also too, right?
Yeah.
So are people thinking now in terms that video games are addictive also?
Yeah, the literature is still developing. There's a big debate about video games now, particularly after some of these mass shootings. One of the common correlations was excessive violent video game use. So
You see a relation.
I personally do see a relation, and there is research to back it up that you have lower empathy if you do excessive video gaming. You have lower empathy, meaning it's harder for you to see what someone else is experiencing or having trouble with, which is a huge deficit in this world where professionally you've got to understand and how to deal with people.
I was listening to you and you were talking about empathy and just all these different thoughts going into my head about some of the other questions that we had here, but the movie WALL-E, the Disney movie, and how society kind of evolved and they're kind of removed from each other. There's a button for everything, a button for food and this, and they're not active. Chairs bring them around everywhere, and just they've forgotten how to respect the simple things of life. And I see that with video games also too. We see teens and adolescents here at the health department and family health that are less active, because they're so siloed there in front of the TV and they're not out. I don't see kids out playing, baseball.
Essentially, they're missing out on a lot of beautiful things about life and reality versus your virtual reality. Another thing I've seen is you might see a teen that's super withdrawn at school and not confident, etc., and then they have a whole nother persona online. So sometimes it's has to do with that. But what they don't know is that even though they might feel connected to some of the people they're playing with, it doesn't take the place of real face-to-face quality time and connectedness. And you really are disadvantaged in developing that emotional intelligence and that quality of life. So,
Yeah, they're missing out on a lot. You're exactly right.
and same with excessive social media use. There's a lot of notes that I'm going to post about that.
You were
Sorry.
looking over my shoulder because that was another question that someone sent in. They asked this question for themselves. They said, how can I personally set boundaries for myself in regard to time spent on social media?
There
So,
you go. You're
Yeah.
thinking straight. That's definitely a good step to be mindful and aware that too much time can be negative for you and for your wellness. So I would first pay attention and kind of gauge how much time you're spending on it, and then set a goal for yourself. I think it's you've got to set that reasonable goal for you. And it's really important to build your knowledge of the negative effects of excessive social media use. And I'll share a couple of them right now. Is that okay?
Oh, please. Yeah.
For one, research studies have shown that it promotes your comparison of others. And what they've seen with social media is even if you, because apparently subconsciously this is what you're doing, you're sizing somebody else up. Even if you feel like you are better than them, it's the identical negative response emotionally. So you're continuing, especially if you're in that mindset of comparing, which it has been shown to create that mindset, then you're feeling that. It increases a attitude of jealousy. I'm going to look at my notes because there's so much. Oh, this is really interesting. It can create an arousal addiction. So even if you don't want to look at your phone, you could end up looking at your phone a lot, even something during a time that's meaningful for you. So the reason for that is that likes and things like that have been found to release dopamine in your brain, the same thing that cocaine or shooting up heroin does. So with that, then your lack of attention has shown, like when you see a lack of likes or things like that, it has been shown to create feelings of depression, anger, and anxiety. So that's a lot of mental issues going on.
Yeah,
and if you do it all the time, you're not going to be in a state of mind that you are happy. And,
well, something you just touched on also too about social media. Like you said, unrealistic expectations and jealousy. People tend to post the best of the best of the best.
Yeah,
you don't
absolutely.
you don't see them, with bed hair in the morning or that that Van Halen T-shirt they slept in or something like that. They don't show you that kind of stuff. So I think you're right. It's very unrealistic. It's a facade of an image that I want to show you my best.
Right.
And I will never show you my worst, right?
And that's what everybody else is doing, right?
Absolutely.
It's also been shown excessive internet or social media use has been shown to increase your craving for self-validation. So especially if you see somebody continuing to post, they are trying to validate themselves. So the point is, yes, it's a piece of the culture. There are positives such as connectedness and knowing what people are doing and say happy birthday or whatever, things like that. But you just need to be mindful to set limits because your wellness matters, your well-being.
I know we're going to wrap up here in just a moment, and we had a lot of questions and just responses sent in to us, so we may have to continue this topic. I mean, it sounds like, teens, there's a lot of information out there.
There is.
And adolescent. But one of the last things here, let me look back at my notes.
Yeah, and while you look at that,
Yes.
I was encouraged to say happy the World Mental Health Day 2018 is today, October 10th.
Isn't
that a coincidence?
What a coincidence.
And we'll have the link where you can see that. The biggest topic was adolescence. And half of all mental illness begins at the age of 14. And also suicide is the second leading cause of death among 15 to 29-year-olds. So that is very disturbing, you know. And again, like I was saying before, this is a vulnerable stage in the world, the culture that we live in today. You need to help your teen have some safeguards and help it, reframe it as a win-win.
Be a better parent, establishing those ground rules. It's your house. It starts in your home. You know,
Yes.
that's your inner circle, right?
I remember when I was a teenager, I would binge watch. I didn't even know binge watching was a thing. But
Yeah.
MTV during the summer,
Uh-huh.
and I just felt horrible. I just couldn't stop. I mean, lack of emotional or self-regulation.
Was this when they played music, or was this?
No, it was reality shows.
Oh, that's so.
And I felt
okay.
horrible, but I kept doing it. And my mom, she laid down the law and she cut the TV off and she said, "You better do your summer reading." And I remember I read and I had a cup of tea and I sat and, you know, my little animal was nearby. And I remember thinking, I do kind of feel better now. So sometimes teenagers, they need your help setting some healthy boundaries.
They do. You're absolutely right. One of the last things that I made a note here before we wrap up is I made a note here for a parent to tell their child it's okay for them to be in a bad mood. Would you agree? I mean, we shouldn't downplay, you know, a child's emotions. So
Right.
can you kind of
Elaborate on that.
just in about a minute or so.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you want to be careful about not invalidating your child. So just because you think they have it great compared to the way maybe you were raised, for you to say things like, you shouldn't be sad, you've got this, this, and this, or you have nothing to worry about, this, this, and this, it can be harmful. It can make them feel kind of ostracized and isolated and invalidate their feelings. They have a lot of things to worry about. In fact, as we saw, you know, teens are considered the most stressed out during their school years. So it's best not to do that. And instead just ask them, okay, what's going on? Just listen. Because invalidating them is harmful.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
That's a good explanation of that. I just, you know, made some scratch notes here just to ask you while we were talking. So next Wednesday, Wellness
Okay.
Wednesday, that'll be the 17th. And depending on how many questions we get, maybe we will continue with the same topic unless someone contacts you about something a little bit more pertinent for, you know, next week or something
Yeah.
going on. So what do you think about that?
I think that sounds great. And you know, I've been doing my homework each week, and this is definitely helping me too. And I really like that it's just a sounding board to talk, begin the conversation. And I appreciate the people that have viewed this and asked questions and shared comments.
You're about to lose me again.
Oh.
I'm kidding. I won't go back to my game. But
Oh, man.
and over the weekend you had a birthday, so happy birthday.
Yes, I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah,
I had
so-
a wonderful time engaging in self-care.
Well, before we go, tell everyone how they can get in touch with you for themselves or for their teen or a preteen to just make that appointment to, you know, check in with you for counseling.
Yes, we have a team of behavioral health professionals, and we love seeing you. We love seeing people come in and share with us their story and what they're going through so we can help them.
So they can call 251-690-8889. That's the appointment line to make an appointment with you. And I think that pretty much wraps it up for
Wraps it
today.
up.
Good. I will go back to playing the
I
Nintendo.
thought we talked about boundaries here.
I thought I could do both at the same. That's
No.
what teens do.
Oh, maybe we should talk about the difficulty of multitasking. and how it's
Okay.
best. Anyway,
Well,
we'll talk about it later.
I want to thank my sister for leaving this at my parents' house and me finding it to bring it in for today. So,
Oh man, I have one more point.
yeah,
Can I share it?
absolutely.
One thing I've seen, please, parents, especially with like 5-year-olds, find out what they're doing on your phone and really shelter them from playing violent video games. I've seen the impact of later in life as they continue to play, they have more fear, anxiety, panic attacks, all kinds of stuff. They're essentially, they're even more vulnerable. So please pay attention to what they're doing on your tablet, on your phone, and create safeguards for them.
You know what? I think I figured out next week's topic,
Okay.
which would be smartphones and iPads and pad devices as the babysitter.
Okay.
Isn't that right? I mean, they're sort of like the babysitter, the surrogate babysitter.
Who is?
The iPad, the iPhone.
Oh, yeah. I hear you.
Or are you ready to play my video game? You can't.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we're going to wrap up here, and we thank you for joining us again this morning for Wellness Wednesday with Virginia.
And James.
Yeah, me too. I drank more water than you, but you talked more than me. So anyway, thanks again, and the number again to make an appointment is 251-690-8889. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next Wednesday.